Hi.
Wait, which one am I?
You're hi. I'm hello.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Julian.
I'm Tom. We've only been doing this like how many times you don't know that you're famous for the phrase hi. Everybody talks about it.
This is our 1000th episode. Thank you for joining us. We are Team Binge. And no surprise, but we're here to talk about episode 8 of a little show called The Outer Range. This episode is called The West.
The West.
Tom,
Yeah.
what did we say in the very beginning? When we started the show, we were like, man, it starts so strong, and we cannot wait in 8 episodes for it to land the plane and for it to wrap it all up. We don't know where this roller coaster ride is going, but we know it's going to safely end at the little place where you get off on the other end of the roller coaster and you feel satisfied and the journey's been complete. And you have watched episode 8, correct?
I have. I've watched the finale, correct.
I have watched episode 8, the finale. Where are you getting off of this? Where do you feel the roller coaster has stopped and it is forcing you off? Where are you?
You know when you go on those like loop-de-loops, and like you're at the very top of the loop-de-loop, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you're super scared, and you're like, oh man, I hope this comes down.
Yeah.
It never came down.
Okay.
Now I want to say for the
They
top,
just
so
kicked you off?
yeah, they just unbuckle your seatbelt and you go, ah!
Awesome.
The first watch of this, I was kind of bummed with you. Like, I don't know if this landed very well. My biggest gripe is I'm all for you wanting to set up a second season and leaving some mystery, but my biggest issue was the fact that this show has not been picked up for a season 2. Amazon Prime has not committed to it. To leave so much mystery and ask so many questions without the knowledge of being able to do more for the viewing audience, I think did a disservice, because they only answered a handful of questions in this finale, and I felt like it didn't do enough to wrap it up in a clean season. Like, I think a good finale should leave it open for mystery for the potential of a next one, but it should still have a satisfying conclusion, and that's where I think this one missed. But I will also say, going back and watching it again and kind of reading some articles afterwards and theorizing, I do think there's still a lot of fun stuff in this show that will be fun to, if they do more episodes or more seasons, to dive deeper into. But yeah, that's where I landed on this season and this series. So hit me. What do you think?
Listen, I thought this was a strong episode, but it's not how I wanted the season to end. Because, like you, I appreciate getting to the end of the ride and being able to look at the pictures of me screaming and buying a t-shirt. But this episode didn't do that. And you're right, we don't know whether or not our questions will ever be answered. But isn't that life, you know? Isn't it just all
based on the amount of money
die?
based on the amount of money they put into CG, I would imagine they could probably afford a second season.
Let's start there, Tom. Someone was pocketing the CGI FX budget, that's for sure. Because where do we start? We start with Sheriff Joy, and I think I mentioned in the last episode, all I cared about was where Sheriff Joy was going and what she was going to see. And to the show's credit, they gave me that storyline. They didn't leave me in suspense. Does she ride a mastodon? No, but we get the next best thing. She follows the trail of magic dust. At first, I thought it was like a fissure or a schism, or neither of those are words, but a crack in the ground, we'll say, for those of you who are laymen. But I think it was magic dust, right, that she was following a trail of?
That would be my assumption, yeah.
Okay. Strong affirmative from Tom. So
we don't get a close-up. Like, all we do is get this big, like, bird's eye view aerial shot of her kind of following it, and then the magic dust, fissure, crack, whatever, just kind of disappears, and she steps over like a log, which, you know, who knows where it transports her.
Listen, later in the episode when Luke's hand is covered in it, I was like, oh, he found oil. That's cool. That's how, like, little I understand the CGI of the magic dust. But Yeah, so what does she run across? She runs across a giant herd of buffalo. Without a doubt, I mean, I would love to know how many buffalo wranglers they had on site in order to get. I mean, there must have been 1,000 real buffaloes running on screen. Like, I didn't even think there were that many in the U.S. because we shot them to extinction a while back. But they look.
I do want to ask
right?
when I saw this, have we been saying this wrong? Are they bison or are they buffalo, or is that term interchangeable? Because I've read some articles after the fact that's called the bison, and I'm like, did we make a boo boo?
I think the American buffalo and the American bison are interchangeable, if not the same. But they may also be different. Do I care? No. Please, no one write me at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. I don't care if I'm wrong on this one. We get a voiceover of Josh Brolin, and man, when I die, Tom, I would like you to pay. What's the thing where you can get a celebrity to say something?
Cameo.
I'm sure Josh Brolin's on Cameo because he's not a very busy man. I would like you to get a cameo of Josh Brolin reading the lyrics of Dreams by Fleetwood Mac for the balloon releasing ceremony that you guys will be doing for my funeral. But we get a voiceover.
I'll jot that down.
Thank you. I see you taking that note. I see that hand. Grace is a given thing. If you seek it, you'll find it. He's like, when I was a boy, I used to listen to the preacher, and God was good, and everything was good. Then I shot my dad, and when I watched those bullets go into his chest and come out the other side, and then I think that's where it stops. I think he finishes it in a little while, because then we see Perry falling through the void, and I miss Perry, Tom.
He's doing his best.
This was the only
he's doing
part
his best space mime impression.
Yes, he does a great job. This was the only time we see Perry in this episode. I wanted more Sad Sack Perry, but we don't get Sad Sack Perry. We get Cece burying Baby Bear and Mama Bear. BBB and BMB, I believe is the acronym. And then Brolin comes in and he's like, and then it hits me, God is everything good and bad. And I was like, okay, cool. Here we are, show. Take me to the promised land. And
all right, give me your theologic, spiel about God is everything, God is good, God is bad. What are they going for here? What's the thoughts? Lay it on me.
Oh, I think his thought is that if God is like created everything and is in everything, then he's not just in the good, he's got to be in the bad as well. Which, listen, based on my 18 years in seminary, that's not necessarily what it says. God is good. So is the game of pool, which I'm going to transition by saying I watched The Color of Money recently. And go watch The Color of Money. Don't watch this episode.
What is that transition? That is, you've got to give me more than just that.
Oh, well, allow me to say this. I apologize. In the last episode, I said that Perry was in the flash forward. Tom lovingly reached out to me and let me know that, no, Perry was not in the flash forward. It was Rhett in the flash forward. So I don't know what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's wrong and what is God, Tom. I don't, because I thought Perry was in the flash forward. So now I'm just super confused. What I'm not confused about...
That's making you question your faith?
Yes. Perry not being in the
like
flash
Cecilia
forward.
right now?
But then my faith came right on back because I watched Royal go into the barn, grab the old rifle and ammo. Based on the amount of boxes he grabbed, that's like $400 in ammo. And this is then where we transition to Autumn, and she's like, I need guns. And she says this to a white-haired, long-haired guy with like a beard and a mustache outside a pawn shop. And his response, I don't even think these two have met before, right? Like, this is clearly there's not even a hi. It's just like, Red jumpsuit woman says, "I need guns." The guy's response, "We got him." And then they go inside the store. Like, how great is that?
He's like opening up the store, like grabbing his keys, opening it up. He's like, "Oh, good, first customer who needs some guns."
One of the people in Congress must have watched this scene because they just passed gun legislation. So I'm assuming it's because of this episode.
And it's all fixed.
Then we cut to Amy and Rhett in the kitchen, right? There's just a lot of like silence, and we're kind of catching up with all the characters in this. And Amy's like, "Hey, Uncle Rhett, have you seen my dad? Because I need a ride to school." And then she's like, "Hey, are you going to win the rodeo?" And he's like, "Nope." And he's like, "Because I feel like poop." And she's like, "I think you're going to win." And I don't know. This seemed like a exchange between two people where one has a driver's license and he could very well be like, "I'll give you a ride to school because we're family and you're a child." Also,
maybe he eventually does.
We've seen
They just
Amy
don't
ride
cover
the
it here.
bus, so now I'm wondering if Amy's not trying to trick Rhett into getting into the vehicle so that she can then murder him. I don't know.
Can I ask though?
You
were
can ask
you
whatever
excited
you want
though?
because I don't know what's going on.
Were you excited to hear this? Like when Amy says like, "Oh, you're gonna win that rodeo tonight," I was like, "Yes, we're gonna get the rodeo finals. They're not gonna leave us hanging on this one." I was excited.
Yeah, I think I theorized last episode that the rodeo was going to be the turning point of this whole show, and boy, was I right. No, I was excited to hear we were going to get... I just enjoy Red as a character, so I was fine with him moping around as he's prepping himself to get thrown around by 400 pounds of bull muscle. We then cut to the Tillerson house, and nothing brings anyone as much joy as it is to hear Billy singing. And I don't even remember, I didn't even write down what he's singing in this scene because I was baffled, quite frankly, by what he's doing to Wayne. Tom, I'll give you the floor. What's he doing to Wayne, who seems to be passed out?
Yeah, he's still seemingly passed out in his, I got excited, I found a void coma thing. But he pulls a little baggie, which looks like a baggie of like, black cocaine. It's like literally looks like drugs. And he just starts, which we assume is the magic dust, or the rock, whatever, and just starts, trickling it over his lips, and then eventually puts a little bit on his forehead, which, I mean, just absolute gold. All while he's serenading his father with this ballad. It made me think though, like, what is he actually like sprinkling on him? And my first thought was like, okay, these have to be like Oreo crumbles.
His dad loves Wayne Tillerson, the Oreo magnate, loves Oreos. So yeah, I got corrected once. Did I say it right? I said magnate. I think before I said magnet. So I'm not real sure what the right word is, but just
I think it's magnate. But
magnate.
Either way, they both stick to steel.
That's true. I really like Billy singing. I cannot say that enough. And it makes me feel an emptiness in my own soul that I don't have a singing voice because Billy sings so well. We then cut to the dead owl room where Billy and Luke are looking over the dead owls. And we find out that Wayne would kill them and bring them home in his gym bag. So
as one does.
I don't know. I did not get the sense whether or not he would like hit them with his car or whether or not he would shoot them with a gun or whether or not Wayne's like, "Hey, I'm going to work out," and he'd take his gym bag and his workout was him just chasing owls in the field. Like some sort of weird Rocky Balboa training montage. It's just Wayne Tillerson chasing down and then thumping owls over the head with a stick. We find the names of these owls. They're normal names, Tom, as you would name an owl. It was Prudence, Integrity, Hope, and Luke. And why is it called Luke, Tom?
Because that was his favorite owl. So is the idea here that, like, this is just trying to show us that Billy loves his brother and there is an affection there. Like, it was just super odd that there's seemingly not a Trevor owl. There's only a Luke owl.
I don't think we got to the Trevor
go.
owl, but I'll give you a purely hypothetical, Tom. You walk into my house and I've got, I don't know, 7 stuffed bears that are all real bears that were murdered by my cold hands or the hands of my father. And I'm like, oh, that one's name is Bear, that one's Baby Bear, and that one's name is Tom. In that moment, do you feel like it's a compliment, or is it kind of a weird, like, threatening gesture that you named the dead animal that you stuffed and put in the house Tomas?
I would feel very threatened if you put it like that, especially if it's a bear. Bear's a little more intimidating than a little owl.
Okay. Well, I won't run it back with a different type of animal, but yeah, this one was mad. This one was mad. Yeah, it was crazy. Luke then says, "Does Dad know about the hole?" And Billy says, "I think so." And I got confused here because I thought we were pretty much on the page of, like, Wayne found the hole, he was celebrating, or...
He comes into the house just saying, like, I found it, and then starts slowly kind of degrading. And I think they probably didn't even know maybe what he was saying or what he was implying. So I think the assumption is that he found it, and I think that's what Billy even says. Like, yeah, I think so. But they don't know for certain.
And then Luke very quickly says, does he know what it's worth? Tom, what? He's like, it's a mother load of money. What is a hole in the ground worth that has a bunch of, like, weird CGI smoke? Why does Luke immediately think this is a moneymaker? I didn't understand this at all. People, once again, react to this hole in such a strange way that I'm a little bit baffled.
Well, we talked about it last episode and theorized that Luke is looking at this hole monetarily, but we're saying that we asked the same question last time, like, what is in this hole that he sees dollar signs in? And you could argue later when he starts digging and then, like, puts his hand in what seems like oil, and I think he almost thinks it's oil at first, but then starts to do its shimmery, timey-wimey stuff. I think he just understands that it's rare and it's, unique. That I don't know, because you could also argue that maybe Wayne did talk to Luke about the geologist or the surveyor that was supposed to come out to the land and look at stuff. So maybe he knows a little bit more than he's putting on. But I'm with you. It's a leap to say that Luke only sees dollar signs in this.
Luke's like, all right, we're going to put up a fence. It's going to be about 10 feet off of the hole. We're going to charge $15 a ticket. People are going to come out. They're going to stand around. They're going to stare in the hole. For an extra $10, they can throw something in the hole. And that's how we're going to make all of our money. And then for people that want to skip the line, they can have a fast pass, but they're going to have to pay $20 to skip the line. Like, I just didn't understand. And part of me is like, if I was a deeper person, I was like, okay, so maybe each character sees something different in the hole. Like, Royal sees, like, past tragedy that he escaped through the hole. Perry sees escape from current tragedy, and so he uses it as an escape. Luke, who I guess is, like, greedy or money-minded, only sees, like, the money-making side of it. Although I would argue in the first episode, Luke's, like, the most reasonable brother out of all of them. And then I guess Billy, because he's a little bit off of his rocker, just sees, like, the mysticism of it all, and this allows him to see Autumn for who she is. Like, that's kind of... And then Autumn, it's something mystic to her, too. So, I guess, once again, if I was a deeper person, that's how I'd interpret this. But I'm not, so I'm really just like, I don't know. Maybe Luke just sees, like, cash. It's just a hole full of cash. I don't understand.
It's a cash basket. No, I like that. I think that you're saying you're not a deeper person, but you made that connection. I didn't necessarily put that together about everybody seeing not necessarily what they want to see, but maybe what they kind of need to see, or just the way that they interpret that kind of stuff. So I think that's an interesting take, and I like it.
Well, we're going to get a lot deeper here because nothing's deeper than a brother's hug, which Billy hugs Luke, and it's almost like one of those things where Luke doesn't lift his arms. It's just like Billy's hugging him, and Luke doesn't want anything to do with the hug. This reminded me of, and we reference it often, but there's a part in Arrested Development where Job hugs Michael, and Michael's like not on board at all, and Job like kind of forces Michael like to like nestle his neck almost, and like Michael's not even like hugging back or anything. But Job is like making it like this. He's trying to make it a sweet moment. Anyways, Billy is Job in my world. Or Gob, Bluth, however you want to pronounce it. Billy then makes the outrageous request of, hey, please don't suffocate our father again. I know you want the ranch. I know he's leaving it to me because we used to name dead owls together, so we're close. But you can have the ranch. Just don't kill Dad. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, that's fine. If Luke was a better businessman, he may like counter that a little bit, but like, hey, I won't kill him for a month, but then after that it's free game. I don't know. He should have countered, but he didn't. Then we're at the hotel. Autumn's got a gun, and she's on the phone demanding money. Autumn's frightening.
She mentions like she wants to draw from the trust. And now that we kind of know, is the assumption that she's talking to Rebecca?
Yes.
Like her mom?
Yes.
Okay. So her mom, future version of her mom, has loads of money, gobs of money from seemingly playing the stock market or bringing back a sports almanac and putting money on the Cubbies.
There you go. Smart.
So that's how they have a lot of money. So their idea there is like she needs that money freed up so she can buy that land from the auction.
She put all that money on the Arizona Diamondbacks being the worst team in baseball, and she won big. Good job, Rebecca. Royal pulls up to the hotel with a gun, looking for Autumn, and I will give some credit to Barrett, who brought this up, but my mind was, like, as I watched this, I was the same, like, I was aligned. This is very much Josh Brolin in No Country for Old Men. There's a part of that where he goes to like an old motel. He's driving a very similar truck. He's got a bag of money. Spoiler, if you haven't watched that movie, stop listening to us and go watch No Country for Old Men. That movie's incredible. But he plays Llewellyn. And everything about this scene, him going through the hotel, it's like he's playing that character.
Right.
The only thing that missing is Javier Bardem is not chasing him with one of those cattle stunner things. But we think we're going to get a gunfight in a hotel room when he kicks down the door because she's like hiding in the room. This is all shot really well. I thought this was...
Yeah, they do this quite a few times, and where they do like this double focus, so they're focusing on both the foreground and the background. So I think it's just some kind of camera trick, but it's really neat. So that way you can kind of get both characters' perspectives in focus as opposed to just one being out. So that was very interesting. They do obviously a really kind of silly cut here where she's right at the bed, like could not get away quickly enough when he starts jamming on the handle and then kicks open the door. But she just, of course, teleports outside the door or the window, and the window's kind of cracked open. And we don't even really see her leave, right? We see Billy in the car, like Billy's in the truck, but I don't think we see even her in the truck with Billy.
No, she just goes out the window. We see a window with wind moving curtains, and that lets us know, because we've been trained from TV and movies for our whole lives, that an open window with curtains means someone escaped out of it. But yeah, that I did think the same thing. I was like, oh, she got from the bed, opened the window, and out the window like super quick. But when you're in one of those red jumpsuits, you got a lot of freedom of movement. You could do parkour. You could do something equally cool as parkour. I don't know.
Jazzercise.
Boom. Taibo. Any of the...
the Gazelle.
The Gazelle. That's... Yep.
Right now. I don't have any more.
No, I think the Gazelle is enough. We're then back at the Abbott house, and the camera really loves the sign that says, "Oh Lord, reveal yourself to us." Perry's missing. Cece's in a panic. I just feel bad for whoever is always on the phone with Cece, because Cece's like constantly screaming at them.
It's Kathy. I don't know if we know who Kathy is. I'm assuming it's some sort of family member. we don't, I don't think, ever get introduced, but she mentions Kathy.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably a cousin. Someone that doesn't
Twice
have a
removed.
claim to the ranch, but is close enough. No, it's a woman from the Bible study. That's what it is. It's got to be, right? Because the last time she's
that
like,
makes sense.
when have you ever seen me miss Bible study other than that time I fed that bear my blood? We find out through Cece's screaming that Perry rides in 3 hours. Perry's missing. I'm sorry, Rhett rides in 3 hours. Perry's gone. The ranch is gone. And we see Amy, I think, in the foreground.
Yeah, I think Amy overhears this conversation, and I think this even cuts to the next scene is Autumn at the bank, who, spoiler alert, later on we find out that Amy is Autumn here. This made me think that, what? This could potentially be just some of the, dysfunction that's kind of going on in this family could be leading to maybe some of, young Amy's, mental instability, and because, everybody in this family is just blowing up on her for no reason. And not paying attention to her or not showing her any kind of love because they all have their own kind of things going on. And then when eventually the mom shows up, who the heck knows what happens when Rebecca shows up and takes Amy. But this is kind of that first bit. I've said it before. I've felt very bad for Amy in multiple scenes, and I think the entire series has been trying to do this and make you feel for Amy in this situation with the family.
Well, all I have to say to that is if kids, I guess, have issues from their parents yelling randomly out of anger, then my kids are doomed. And we don't even have a void outside for me to jump into. Yet. We're at the bank. This scene was probably, I don't know why, on the second watch, these two do such a great job in this scene. Autumn's pacing, Maria's behind the counter, Autumn's clearly got a gun, she's waiting on some sort of transfer. Maria's like, hey, listen, the money will come. Oh, by the way, you can't have that in here. And Autumn immediately goes right-wing gun nut. And I say that affectionately. She's like, when she says, don't tread on me, B, that was such, because she doesn't even it's not even a punctuated line. It's she says it as a stream of conscious. She's like, it's my right. I've got a right. Don't tread on me, B. She does, the way she delivers it is so good. And then Maria's reaction and her telling her to get out of the bank. The whole thing's incredible. And then they cap it off with just, listen, there are some great love stories throughout history. Name them with me, Tom. There's obviously Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
There are the two. There's Sven and the girl from Frozen. Obviously, I mean, we all know. I don't even have to name them. Everyone knows.
Yep.
Was Sven the moose or was Sven the? Anyways, it doesn't matter. And then there is obviously Braveheart and his lady, who they grow old together. And then Tom Hanks in every movie he's been in. Just name whoever he's been with. Meg Ryan, I think.
There you go.
No, Helen Hunt. Maybe that's the one. And then there's Billy and Autumn, Tom. And I know you want to talk about this. So they cap off the bank scene. I'm sorry, Tom. The mic did something weird. It sounded like you were sighing.
No, I was just I'm at a loss for words of how beautiful the scene was.
Good.
Yeah. The song choice of Vanessa Williams saved the best for last.
Oh, yeah.
And Billy getting able to do this one last rendition, and the way it was shot, they do this weird, I think you have it here, they kiss like they've never kissed before. They don't know how to do it. It's that whole tongue, weird, slobbery, just gross, whatever. But the camera cuts and the pan into the music and the camera even from above the bird's eye view. This was all to be worth the price of admission on this show. Just to see Billy sing and to see it capped off with this was just magnifique.
Incredible. Incredible. The camera's overhead. It's spinning. Like, did Michael Bay shoot this scene? You know, incredible. Why isn't there an American flag, flying in the background? There probably is. But I loved every moment of this. And to your point, like, I almost had the thought, like, okay, so, like, Autumn is almost like if you, like, instantly made Amy old and, like, Billy, who seems to be, like, let's say, aged down mentally. I don't know if that's the right way of putting that. But, like, yeah, they kiss like people that don't know how to kiss. Or people that have discovered the key. I don't know. The question, I don't know. This is one of these unanswerable questions. That's why we're mad at this show right now, because we don't know if that's the right way to kiss.
Your significant other?
No. Then we're at the Tillerson. No, we're not at the Tillerson pasture. We're at the West pasture, but a Tillerson's in it. And Luke is digging near the void. And he then
okay.
Go ahead.
There's the fence there. I do feel like we might be in the Tillerson pasture. I don't think he's actually in, because I think we've established that fence is there. I think he's just digging on the Tillerson land, Luke is, to try to figure out, do they have some stuff on their land? Because I think I do not believe that all of this, minerals and time stones, whatever you want to call it, is just on the Abbott land. I think it's on both.
When you say time stone, do you mean the time stone that's in the glove that Josh Brolin wears in this movie? Is that what you
It's exactly right. About? Again, this is a prequel to the Avengers. It takes place millennia beforehand. This is the forming of the time stone.
Oh, man, I've learned more than I ever wanted to know about the time stone. Here was my thought, Tom. I thought Luke went to the last place he saw it, and so he's on the Abbott land, and I guess maybe he thinks it's his land because per the county assessor it's going to be. But then is this where he's talking to his mom and they're talking about like the value of it, and it's the most valuable thing he's ever seen? Once again, I was like, what are you seeing? Like, I don't understand. And then he's like, oh, by the way, Mom, I tried to kill Dad. And he's like, did you hear me? And his mom, very smartly, is like, nope, didn't hear you. Can't get subpoenaed for that. And let's go back to Tom and Julian's murder corner. Don't admit to attempted murder over the phone. That's just certainly to someone.
You do it via text message.
Yeah, text message, like in a handwritten letter where you drip some of your blood on it. That's okay, but not over the waves. That's over a phone.
Yeah, it's a bold choice, and I think Patricia definitely makes the wise choice here. But it was interesting. It's like he had to get this off his chest because he has this kind of trust or faith in his mom, or at least his mom and him share in common the idea of just constantly seeing dollar signs. So there's certainly some kinship in their relationship on that side of it. But what I thought was really funny in this, and this is just me because I noticed these things in shows, but like finding continuity errors. There's a hilarious one in this little bit where they do a super close-up of Luke holding the phone up to his head. And if you look at the phone case, his phone case is clearly for the Google Pixel, just based on where the cutouts are in the case. There's a little circle in the back of it, and then like where the camera cutout holes are. But if you look at the phone inside the case, the phone is an iPhone. You can see the top part of the Apple logo, and the camera like holes don't even match up. It is the weirdest thing. This makes me potentially go back to the idea of like bad guys not being able to use iPhones, so they just threw a Google case on top of it.
Sure.
It's super silly and a weird continuity error that I don't know why they didn't fix.
And they made this show before they knew it was Amazon and not Apple, so that's why they did it. They were like, just in case Apple picks us up, let's make sure it doesn't look like the bad guy's got an iPhone. Tom, you've just revealed a lot about what you do for a living and where you've spent a lot of your life thinking about by talking about phones and phone cases. But
I work in telecom.
Just another reason why we together absolutely hated this episode is because of the phones and the phone cases. We're back at the Abbott house. I think this is where Cece's yelling at the ungrateful Amy for being a snot-nosed kid and not understanding that families always eat meals together. And Cece gives her a real good lesson in what it is to respect her elders. I don't know. This was like they were like, hey, let's cut from Cece yelling at Amy, and then, hey, let's cut back to Cece yelling at Amy. I didn't really understand, other than to show that, like, I guess Cece... Oh, I know what it is. I mean, essentially, it's showing Cece and the stress level, but this also kind of makes it easier on us to believe why Amy would go with her mom at the end of the episode so freely. Because, like, who wants to hang out at this house where they're constantly yelling about the importance of eating meals together?
I think she also mentioned something when she was talking about Perry about... Well, I don't know. I don't want to... Like, when I was reading an article, it said something about her not liking like ranch life or not wanting to be here. But then I think when Rhett even asked her, like Rhett's like, oh, do you ever want to get away from this place? And she kind of says thing like of course I'm going to stay, or like the implication was that she always wanted to stay on the ranch, and that Rhett was
and you mean Amy,
second thoughts about wanting to leave. I'm sorry, Amy. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know, but I agree that's probably some of this. But they did say that Amy talking to Perry's like, hey, if mom comes back, can I go with her?
Right.
So they at least set the groundwork for that.
That's fair. We then cut back to handsome Luke. I'm assuming he's wearing some sort of Under Armour garment, digging. And this guy, based on what's happening, this guy is like the fastest digger of anyone in the world, because all he's got is a shovel. His hands would be bleeding.
He is. He's a master. And this totally reminded me of that movie Holes with like Shia LaBeouf. Did you ever watch that when you were a kid?
I never watched the movie, but I read the book.
Okay, yeah. Because it's just literally holes everywhere in his... And he's got nothing outside of like a shovel and a pick. He's not using some sort of bobcat or anything else. It's very impressive digging. He should get with Cece.
So impressive. Yeah. They could bury bears and find magic coal dust together. Royal's riding around town. He's listening to the radio. And he's listening to the rodeo on the radio, as one does. Do you remember, Tom, growing up and your parents driving around in the car with them and they'd have the rodeo on and you'd just be listening to all
KRDO rodeo all the time. Sunday, catch the rodeo. Kid seat still only $5.
I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I think the art of listening to a sports game on the radio is like a lost art. I don't know that it's going to go past like maybe our generation, because I can remember like my dad listening to like basketball games or baseball games. Like I think baseball will be fine for radio because it moves at a speed that is slower, but like I just don't think my kids are ever going to have the attention span to listen to a sports game on the radio, much less a rodeo.
My dad still does. My dad still does. He smokes cigars, so he likes to sit outside in his front yard on the back of his car. He's got a little man cave, so he smokes his cigars, listens to his sports. It's usually basketball or baseball.
He's a good man, your dad. The rodeo, a lot of guitar, a lot of wailing guitar, a lot of electric guitar, we'll say. And then a lot of bull riding. This is what I call Julian's Saturday night. You know what I mean? I just can't get enough.
Did you recognize the songs?
Tom, here's what's so sad about me. The only reason I know what was playing during this scene, don't send me hate letters. I just don't want them. I think I hit pause, and Amazon does that thing, which is really cool. It's called like X-ray or whatever.
X-ray, yeah.
So if you hit pause on an Amazon show, it will tell you like what actors are in the scene, and then it also does the music sometimes. And so I know that this is the band Metallics, and they were playing a song.
Yeah, it was Metallica, Search and Destroy, and then like later on they play Master of Puppets. So apparently they've just got Metallica on. Album on the PA system there, but it was good classic pump me up bull riding music.
Here's my request to whoever runs this show: spend less money on the rodeo music budget and spend more money on the herd of buffalo CGI. I'm sure Metallica's not a cheap, we're gonna put it in our show for 5 seconds. So next time, spend the money on bears and buffalo. Bears, buffalo, Battlestar
Galacta.
Royal shows up at the rodeo. Royal rolls over to where Rhett's at, and listen, talk about a really well acted scene that I was just like, what are you trying to tell him? Like, I don't understand. Because this is where he's like, Rhett, I need you to know something about me. I need you to know something about the land. Like, I may not see you again. I need you to find what's on the land. I need you to take care of it. And, like, Brolin is, like, crushing it here. Rhett's doing a great job looking confused. But then I was like, guys, give me more. Like, you can talk. There are people right there. But, like, Brolin almost plays it like he's so, like, emotional that he can't, like, speak the words. And maybe that's because Rhett's like, hey, I don't care about the land. Which was a great line.
I do. So I find this scene interesting because this is Rhett finally standing up to his father and saying, like, listen, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done dealing with all your BS and all the, like, the land. And, like, he's coming to the realization that he wants to spend his life with Maria. And, you know, to do that, he needs to, you know, kind of cut ties with his family a little bit, especially when we know Royal has just been lying to him and doing all this kind of stuff. But the way, to your point about Royal's response and, like, stammering over his words and he couldn't finish it, it made me think there might have been, like, something, I don't know, like, holding him back. Like, he couldn't say these words because it messed with, like, the timeline or something. Like, he couldn't physically get them out. I don't even know if it was him not being able to find his words, because I think he knew what he wanted to tell him, but I don't know. Like, I feel like there was some timey-wimey stuff holding him back.
So you think there's a supernatural element to this that is keeping him from saying the words?
I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to theorize and throw that out there so I could potentially get internet points. And if nothing ever comes of it, I'll never mention this again. But that was my thought. The way he was stammering over his words, we've never seen Royal stammer over his words at all. He's usually very, like, to the point with his words and you know, speaks what he wants. I don't know why he, you know, stumbled here.
See, I think I didn't see it as a supernatural thing. You know, this is just us cowboy types, you know. It's tough for us to really share deep emotions because we're just so darn tough, you know, rootin' tootin' tough, as we like to say on the horse farms. So that's what I thought it was. I just thought he was too much of a man to tell his son that there's a weird hole on the land that he needs him to find and take care of. I'm assuming by putting a tarp over it or throwing a shovel in it. I don't know. Anyways, Royal gets escorted away, as people do, because you're not allowed to be in the chute. Rhett rides. Royal joins Amy and Cece in the stands. Amy's like, hey, do you know where my dad is?
And of course, Royal just lies, says, I don't know, when clearly knows he's gone skydiving.
Royal skydiving. He's like, last time I saw him, he was flying through the air. I don't know, Amy. I don't know. Maybe the chute didn't open. He's spelunking. This guy's spelunking. I don't know. I just like that Royal says my favorite phrase when talking about this show. He's like, I don't know what the answer is. Sorry, Amy. It's all a mystery. And by the way, Amy, you're not going to know by the end of this episode. And she's like, what's an episode? And then the show got real meta. As we all know, Royal doesn't have a phone. This is not something that needed to be pointed out to me. It's something I know because I'm a diligent watcher of the show. So Autumn calls Amy's phone because she wants to talk to Royal.
Which do you think that's odd? Like, it was kind of funny to me. I was like, how could she possibly have her number? But then you think about it, well, this is Amy's phone. Amy's phone is Autumn's phone. So assuming she kept that same phone number, she would know the phone.
Well, that's assuming that between Amy's current age and Autumn's age, every 2 years, Amy doesn't turn in her phone for a better phone and get a new phone number, like we all do.
We don't get new phone numbers. Getting new phone numbers are the worst.
Oh, I get a new phone number every 2 years. That's the whole point of that's what you're supposed to do. You change carriers and get a new phone number. Anyways, Royal is walking around talking on a cell phone. Looks great doing it. I know he's never done it before because he doesn't own a cell phone. He's looking for Autumn. She's like, she wants him to find her because she knows how it ends.
Mm-hmm. And she makes a line about saying, like, you can't beat fate, Which I don't know. Like, this was interesting to me because I don't know if the whole season was trying to crescendo to the fact of we know Royal gets shot in a barn and dies in Cece's arms, or at least that's what they've showed us in a fast forward. But that was we don't know the timing of it. So when you were watching this episode, did you think that's where we were going to end?
No, because I think Royal to the "you can't beat fate," he says something like, "Well, I'm gonna try." Or I don't remember what the exact line is, but as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh, fate's got nothing on Royal. He's gonna steal those drug runners' money and go live a happy life." No, I see what you're saying, and I did kind of like. There was enough that happened in this episode, and this is why I like this episode. Like, they laid a groundwork, and then they didn't follow the groundwork based on what they telegraphed for us. Well, other than one big reveal that they telegraphed the whole time, and when it's revealed, you're like, yeah, okay, got it, don't care, like, we knew. But, yeah, to your point, you do kind of think that's how Royal's going to meet his end. So, yeah, I liked how they did that. But I don't know that, like, the whole time I wasn't like, oh, he's got to die in a barn. But there was enough there that I was surprised on how it went, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, for sure.
And what also makes sense is that Autumn's in town. And so Royal leaves to go to town. Because he's not going to he's not going to watch Rhett ride a bull.
And this is where we get like Rhett looking into the crowd, because he does it on both of his rides. So on this ride, he looks into the crowd, doesn't see Royal there, but he does see Amy and Cece getting ready to cheer him on. But I like the way they did these cuts.
And no Perry, just to make sure everyone knows Perry's not there.
No Perry, correct.
As Tom said, he's spelunking. Rhett rides the bull. I mean, Tom, as an avid bull rodeo watcher, I mean, what'd you think of this ride? Let's just evaluate it from a pure, like, rodeo standpoint. Because I know you've got, I mean, I'm looking at your notes.
I mean, he was doing really well.
On how
yeah,
he did.
the first 3 seconds, he was running about an 80, 85 kind of run.
And 365 is the best. That's what we determined the other day, right?
That's what you determined. But looking at the leaderboard, I think it goes to 100. But again, I don't watch as much as you.
Sure.
But yeah, between seconds 4 and 5, he was kind of losing his grip a little bit. And then by second when he got bucked off and then fell right in his shoulder, it was not great. He went from second place to last place with one run. It was a rough one.
Thank you for that. I don't know if you guys have been with us for Ted Lasso, but Tom brings that same like knowledge of rodeo as he does to soccer, and it's very helpful. I'm saying that like I'm being sarcastic, but actually he was a great help during Lasso because he watches soccer and I don't. Anyway, season 3's coming at some point. I assumed Rhett hurt his spine. Like the way he's like on the ground and like almost like shaking, I was like, oh no, like we're paralyzing Rhett. But then, there's 2 things shows always like to do. They're like, listen, let's just have him hurt a shoulder and we'll pop it back in place. Like that will show that they're tough. The other thing is if they get shot, you just have to say, oh, it went through. It didn't hit anything. It just went through. Yeah. And so you can patch it up. Like, there you go. Those are 2 things that shows do. We then cut, and this stressed me out a bit because there's nothing worse than losing a child at a public event. But Amy walks away. Cece starts looking for her. Amy wanders under the bleachers. And to your point, Tom, you said, hey, we're going to meet Rebecca eventually. And we don't beat her. We meet her. We meet Rebecca. She calls to Amy. And, yeah. I thought this actress was someone I would recognize. I did not know who this was. But she's like, we've got to go. I had to hide. I'm sorry. We've got to leave.
Yeah, this is one of those sequences. Like, I'm glad they did it. I'm glad we got Rebecca in this. But I hated that this is all we got. And they're leaving such a huge cliffhanger for multiple seasons. I thought we needed more to this because they pushed so much on this Rebecca mystery. But I love this actress. I know her from, it's Kristen Connolly, I believe her name is.
You recognized her.
Yeah, so she plays in Cabin in the Woods. She kind of plays like the virgin of like the horror stories or whatever. that ultimately, I don't know, I don't want to ruin Cabin in the Woods if you haven't seen it because you need to see it, but it plays on a lot of tropes of like the horror franchise, and it's absolutely fantastic, and she's great. She kind of reminds me of like, she's got like an Uma Thurman vibe.
Okay.
But really, really good.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't recognize her, but I'm glad you did, and I do know that you love Cabin in the Woods because you made me watch it once. I think we might have watched it together when I watched it for the first time, and it is a lot of fun. I think it's Chris Hemsworth's finest work. That's him,
It's
right?
something that made me
He's
think
in that?
about this a little bit when, Hemsworth is in it for sure. He plays the jock.
Got it.
But in the sequence where we know Amy here is 9 years old, and we learn later on that Autumn doesn't remember anything before 9. So my assumption is here, Rebecca is taking Amy away, and maybe they're going to search for Perry, and maybe they go into a time hole, they go into a fissure or whatever else to be able to jump either forward or backward in time to find Perry, and that's why Amy here can't remember anything, or I guess Autumn can't remember anything from the first 90 years of her life. So I don't know. I think it gives us something to think about for what could become or what could happen in season 2, just based on some of the conversations that have been had. But it made me think about that now that we're getting Amy taken away.
Tom, if I can be honest, at no point did I think about season 2 in terms of trying to solve this mystery. I just took season 1, and my assumption is all we're going to get is season 1, based on the strongly worded letter I wrote to Jeff Bezos. But what I picked up on during this conversation, and maybe you can help me understand, is she says, I had to hide. And my question to you is, who is Rebecca hiding from? Why does she have to hide? Why does she then have to sneak over and find Amy and then name her Autumn? Like, what happens? Is she hiding from Perry?
No, I think she has to be hiding from Royal, right? Like we've heard, like when Perry confronted Royal, but hey, what happened to Rebecca? And Royal tells him, like, I honestly don't know. And then Perry's like puts his hands on his shoulders. I don't believe you. I think we've seen throughout this entire season that, if nothing else, Royal is an incredible liar, as is Autumn, and they have loads of secrets. So my assumption is here, Rebecca is, I don't know how she disappeared, why she disappeared, but Royal is likely involved, and she's trying to stay away from Royal and, get Amy back, for lack of a better term.
Okay. So you think Royal is the bad guy, even though we've watched Perry beat people bloody several times and then be a sad sack.
Yeah, but all in the sake of family.
And then leave his kid at the Dairy Queen knockoff so he could go yell at his dad. Probably didn't even get her French fries. Anyways, we're still at the rodeo. Rhett gets his shoulder adjusted by a licensed physician, which then causes him to throw up.
And this is where the guy, like, giving him, I was going to say chiropractic thing, but not chiropractic, whatever shoulder people adjusting are.
Acupuncture, sure.
Yes, this guy's giving him acupuncture, and the guy says, all right, man, it's your funeral. This is what first got me thinking. I'm like, oh, man, are they going to kill Rhett here? Did you ever get that vibe throughout all of this?
Oh, 100%.
Rhett was going to die?
Oh, I thought Rhett was,
okay.
Yeah, I thought Rhett was dead. Rhett being my favorite character in the show, and everything that I love and touch falls to pieces. I 100% thought Rhett was going to meet his demise here.
All this ominous music and like the way he looks to the stands and the crowd, and it's just going so slow. They're really milking the scene. I did not think he was going to come away the victor. I thought they were going to like telegraph the idea, like, okay, he's going to leave his family, he's going to get with Maria, everything's going to be good, but something's going to happen.
Oh,
but
I thought he was going to get gored
we should
by
have
a
known
bull.
better. Yeah, that was my thought. But we should have known better because he was in the fast forwards 2 years later.
Sure, but if you thought Perry was in the fast forwards 2 years later, like I did, then everything's a surprise because your memory's terrible, Julian. Cece starts talking to one of the deputies. I think it's Matt, Deputy Matt, who we've met a couple of times. It should have been Matt, but
it wasn't Matt. It was some other local
it was
guy.
A different one. It was the guy that's she's concerned with what he thinks of the canine policy. She's like, Amy's missing. Cece screams a lot. This actress, great job. I mean, crushes the scene. Made me terrified for her. You know, made me think terrible things were happening. A lot of spiral cam. Once again, Michael Bay showed up. He's like, hey, I've got this one. He's like, just spin the camera. That American flag that's flying over the rodeo, get a shot of that.
Explode it.
No, he would never blow up the American flag, Tom. He would blow up something next to it, but he wouldn't blow up the American flag. Do you even know Michael? Anyways, this is a different podcast where we talk about Michael Bay and his genius. And, so Cece
But she
has
keeps
her
reiterating... Yeah, she keeps reading that line like, stop saying everything is fine, everything is not fine, because I think we've got a couple characters in previous episodes saying like everything is fine, especially like Royal, and she's just like had enough of it. Like nothing is fine. She even kind of mentions like Amy's gone, God is gone. Like she's just seemingly completely lost her faith here.
God is gone and we have killed him. Thanks. Cece went all Nietzsche on us. And then Rhett does what cowboys do. Once again, Tom, I mean, this show just like, it speaks to me because once your shoulder gets separated and some dude, cracks it back into place and then you throw up, how do you get the taste of that out of your mouth? What do? You drink a big R beer, which I was like, wait, was that a royal, what's the soda? Royal Crown? No. What's the soda
Crown
with
Royal?
the big R on it? No. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I can't believe I can't come up with
I think it's
right
Crown
now.
Royal.
No, Crown Royal's the whiskey.
No, I think there's
Is there a Crown
soda
Royal
called
soda?
Crown Royal.
All right, Tom, I'm gonna riff while you look it up. Anyways, Rhett, like us cowboys, he eats some dirt, and then he swishes it around with some soda, and then he spits out the soda, and it's just what us cowboys do, as our friends shout, "It's your funeral," or "Put him in a body bag." Any of those common phrases that are shouted. And
I was close. It's Crown. It's Royal Crown. RC Cola. Royal
RC
Crown
Cola. Oh.
So I had it right. I'm dyslexic.
Yeah, no, you get 1,000 internet points. More internet points than you've ever gotten before. Can't use his arm. He can't use his arm, Rhett. This guy can't use his arm. And
Seems helpful for bull riding.
Well, you only need one of them. That's what people fail to
Wasn't
mention.
the arm that he needs is the one that's being like strapped to the bull and like needing to do all the holding?
He's an ambidextrous bull rider.
Okay.
That's why one-armed Carl is the most famous bull rider, is because your other hand I don't think is allowed to touch the bull. So if you don't have a second hand or arm, it makes it better. The guys in the chute are real helpful. They're like, hey, I guess run your hand along this rope. And Rhett's like, I can't. And the guy's like, all right, I'll do it for you. And then he like straps his hand down. And the guy's like, you need me to do it for you? He's like, yeah, do it. And then the guy punches his hand several times. I was like, what is going on here? Part of me is like, oh, this chute crew has done this several times before. Anyways.
Well, one of the guys I think even mentions like, hey man, if you could survive this round, I'll buy you a chicken dinner.
I'll buy you a chicken. Oh, it's so good. Chicken dinner. You can wash it down with some Royal Crown soda. He looks to the stands, Tom. Who does he see in the stands?
Nobody. No one. I mean, he should have looked. I mean, Maria was there somewhere. He spots eyes with her at the end of his run, but yep, no family is there. They've officially abandoned Rhett.
This is where I thought Rhett was going to die. Here's what I thought
100%.
was going to happen. I thought Rhett was going to make it through his ride, but then, like, on his way back, like, after he jumps off the bull, that bull was going to
trample him or something.
Trample
Yeah,
him or
thinking.
gore him or whatever. Because that would have been absolutely heart-wrenching. He turns, he waves at Maria. Maria mouths, I love you. I'm going to have your babies. And then this cow with horns stabs him right in the back. And then that cow says something through its mind that's like, All animals are dead ancestors. Outer
I've been
range.
traveling with my brother for
Boom.
3 years. We've developed thought and speech and can now speak telepathically, and all we want to do is kill the Abbott family.
That's good.
And we
yes.
finally solved the mystery of the cows.
Yes. The cows. Yeah. Oh, for those of you who don't read the synopsis of this podcast, Tom's been on a cow mystery kick that I found one day and laughed hysterically about. So go give that a read. Anyways, Maria's very proud. Rhett wins the rodeo, I guess, as one does. He gets all 365s. And then we're back at Frank's ranch. So we left Sheriff Joy for a while. She got no signal. She's got no signal, Tom, because there's no cell towers in Buffalo country or in Buffalo Times. And we see buffalo running very realistically, and then we see some Native Americans hunting said buffalo, and so she went back in time, apparently.
Yeah, it took me 2 watches. Like, at first I thought she was just like the teepee she sees, the indigenous people that are like hunting them. I thought they had like appeared, like they went through the hole, or they just kind of appeared, just like the mountain disappeared and reappeared. I thought that was kind of what happened, but I'm quite certain what the show is telling us here is I guess what the problem I find with this is she doesn't go through a hole. She doesn't like fall into the magic dust. She just walks through the forest, and that seemingly teleports her to, hundreds of years prior. Because these buffalo that are stampeding are going to be the same buffalo that stampede later in the episode, right? Like when Luke opens up this hole, those same buffalo from that time period are running through it and are now causing havoc in this last part of the episode.
Yes, those CGI buffalo are the same CGI buffalo from this scene. I mean, the only reason I caught this is because when she opens the wardrobe and she moves the coats out of the way and she moves through it and finds herself in Buffalo Land, I knew she was in Narnia. Yeah.
What do you think about like Frank though? Like, is there more to Frank? Like, he just seems like a complete oddball weirdo with his mastodon theories and craziness. He's got a pet crow, which Disney has told us anybody that's got a pet crow is likely a villain. Is he some sort of like time traveler? Did he like lure Joy to his ranch so she can see some of this stuff? Is there more to him?
I don't know, because he uses the phrase like crazy teenagers, which makes me wonder like, what part of this does he think are crazy teenagers? Like, he saw the Native Americans out there and he's like, oh, look at those crazy teenagers? Or it's the crazy teenagers riding the Abbott symbol all over the rocks on his land? There is certainly more to Frank, because Frank's not normal. But I don't know that he's a time traveler. I think he's just the guy that cut down the tree and built the wardrobe and hung some coats in it. I think that's his role.
All right, good to know.
We cut to the rodeo. We find out that Rhett loves Maria. Maria loves Rhett. These two at least know how to kiss like normal people, which is great, because there's some other kissing in this show that is revolting. Rhett's like, I'm done with my family. I'm ready to put all this behind me. He's like, I've got my, doctor's degree now. Let's go move somewhere and be a family of doctors. I don't know. He's like, I've got my rodeo pension. I put in my retirement papers. Let's go. And cut that scene. Some people woo at them as they're kissing. I do want to point that out.
Because the other rodeo clowns or whatever riders were in the background, like, ooh, yeah, go. It was like very high school.
Yeah, mind-blowing is that no one wooed when Billy and Autumn kiss, which is surprising. You'd think the bank tellers would all be on board. We're at the pasture, and once again, I see what you've done here. It says Tillerson pasture. You think it's the Tillerson pasture. In my mind, it's the West pasture. It's the Abbott pasture.
They make a point
You're siding
of putting
with
the
Carl.
fence.
You're a Carl puppet, Tom. That's what it is. You're a Carl Cleaver
It's just
puppet.
weird they have him digging all these holes right next to the fence line. So my thought is, if this was Abbott land, why would he be digging right on the fence line? He'd be going closer to where he saw the hole, which we know is kind of in the middle of the pasture. So it doesn't matter whether it's the Tillerson land or the Abbott land right now, but it made me think that was why it's the Tillerson land.
I know this is an audio medium, but right now Tom has muted his microphone and he's just eating Fritos. And we all know Frito eaters are Carl Cleaver followers. Tom's on the Tillerson side. Yeah, I don't know. Luke's a really good digger. That's all I know. He finds some black stuff in the ground. Like I mentioned before, I thought he found oil. I was like, oh, this is an interesting twist. At least he found something valuable. Nope, he just finds an unending supply of buffalo or bison or whatever. And all I have to say is Luke would be dead. Like, you can lean back as far as you want, but those wild buffaloes are going to stampede you. I don't think Luke lives, but
yeah, the size of this hole that he creates is maybe a bison wide. But bison are coming out of this thing like there's no tomorrow. I guess he's like leaning one way and the bison are coming out the other. So you could, I don't know, say he'd be okay, but I'm with you. I thought he probably should have been trampled. The problem I have with this sequence is we've seen the mineral, the goo, the holes, whatever it is, get on people.
Let's start calling it goo. I like goo. Let's stick with goo.
They get the black goo on them, and they jump forward in time, or they see some sort of future, or they something kind of happens to them. But when he gets all this goo on his hand and it like dissolves into him, nothing happens. He doesn't like. So like what I don't like about that is the show's kind of saying that, this mineral, this goo does something to other characters, but it doesn't to others. And I don't know if that's on purpose and it's different stages of the goo because it's more of a gooiness as opposed to a mineral, and maybe you got to do the mineral. I don't know, but I didn't really like this. Same thing with like the creating of the hole. Him just putting his hand in there seemingly creates a mini void, which teleports all these. Just that hole still there? There's just, again, a lot of questions being asked here that I would have appreciated some answers.
Yes, and you would be well within your right to ask those questions and demand those answers, and this show does not give them to you. I'm sorry, Tom. On behalf of the show, I'd like to apologize to you because they did not give us any answers. We're then in town, and the show's like, listen, we've taken the audience on an 8-episode ride. We've given them a lot of unanswered questions. Let's give them a subpar gunfight. Let's at least do that. So, Royal, Autumn, Billy, it's not a very good ambush, but they get into a gunfight in the middle of Wyoming town, and
I like the way this scene is set up where it's like there's very little music. You have like the old Western like whistles kind of going on. It's set up like very, very classic. Yeah. And then even to start the sequence, it just close up on Autumn's face. It just goes, yeehaw, which, she stole my line. But yeah, terrible ambush. And it made me think that, were they really ambushing him? Did they really mean to like kill Royal in this sequence? Or does Autumn know, because of the fate and seeing him die in the barn, like they shoot him and then they just take off? Like, why would they take off? Are they trying to take off because they're trying to get Royal to the barn because she thinks that's what's going to happen? Because I would argue like everybody shooting here in this sequence are like stormtroopers. Nobody can hit anything until all of a sudden, Royal decides like, okay, I'm just going to use my rifle in this car and get a perfect shot. It was a weird sequence.
I think it comes to the fact that Autumn and Billy, having seen what they think is the future, and because she's like, oh, I've seen how this ends. And so I think they think they're invincible. And Royal does not accept whatever fate is supposed to be destined for him. That's how I took it. So they chase down the road. Actually, they take off and then he's chasing them. Good point, Tom. Yeah. I don't know. Why is he chasing them? He should just be like, all right, they drove away. We're cool now. I don't know. They quickly, yeah. So they drive off. And to your point, after emptying several rounds, he decides to get out the old hunting rifle that I think is what he shot the antelope with in No Country for Old Men. He shoots Billy, and this causes the truck to roll.
Now you see Billy like get shot, the blood kind of flies on the windshield, like it's super dramatic. Like I did not see this coming. I did not see this being the end of Billy, but like he quickly like grabs at his throat, and I almost thought that this could be kind of a tie-in to like why he's been singing the whole season. Like he's been singing, he loves to sing, it's like a joy, it's everything, and when he finally seemingly meets his end here, he like loses his ability to like talk and it gets shot in the throat. I thought that was kind of interesting if it was done purposefully.
Tom, I love you, buddy. You're giving this show so much more than I think it deserves. That's a great... I see what you're going for there. I think they just, like... I think we are supposed to be surprised that Billy dies because Billy has, like, said, oh, I see the future and I'm by Autumn's side, and she changes the world. And that all comes crashing down when he takes a round at the throat. Autumn is then, because the truck rolls, Autumn is thrown from the vehicle.
She might just crawl away. I don't know. I think it kind of just shows her away from the vehicle. Like Billy's just kind of in it while it's over, and she's kind of crawling away.
Yeah, so he finds Billy. Billy's dead. He finds Autumn, and then the buffalo stampede. And... this was very much like a Jurassic Park scene. Like, I feel like there is a specific Jurassic Park scene where, like, dinosaurs are stampeding
away.
And, like, someone gets under a vehicle. I'm not saying Jurassic Park did it first, but those were the vibes that I got. Royal gets under the vehicle. Then we cut to Rhett and Maria driving. They encounter the herd. And they crash into the America's Wrong sign. Thanks for bringing us back to that movie. We appreciate it. One buffalo remains. Still got that arrow. And Royal finally pulls out the last arrow from the buffalo because Autumn pulled the other one out, I believe. And then
I think we talked about this.
And everything is wrapped up. And there's no more arrows in Buffalo. And everyone's good. And the show ends.
I think we talked about that when Autumn pulled the one arrow out. The fact that there was two, it seemed like Royal was destined to pull the other one out. I don't know what the circumstance was when Autumn pulled it out. I think she was just kind of wandering in the pasture in the field and she did it. So I was trying to make some sort of correlation to like, is this a meaningful moment? This is clearly a meaningful moment for Royal when he pulls it out and then, sees the scar here on Amy, or on Autumn, which makes him draw the conclusion that it's Amy. But yeah, I'll go ahead and give you some kudos because I think you were the first. I do think the show kind of hit it heavy-handed later on, but I feel like you were first to the Amy as Autumn theory before I ever even sniffed that out. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 25 internet points.
Thank you. I'd like to spend them on one of the plastic frogs where you push the back of it and it leaps a little bit.
I'm sorry. You're going to need 500 internet points for that.
Peter Piper.
You can get a Tootsie Pop.
All right. Fine. I don't want anything. I'm giving mine to charity.
I feel bad, though, that I didn't mention the scar. I like when she hurt her head in that previous episode and she has that prominent bandage on in episode 7. I think I even meant to make mention of it because it seemed like that was going to be the catalyst for how Royal finds out. But what I really don't like is I went back and watched previous scenes and looked exactly in that spot of Autumn's forehead to see, okay, can we see a faint scar that would give us these kind of cool clue later on, and it is not there. Like, this scar is added in makeup specifically for episode 8, which I thought was a big bummer. Like, you can maybe say she brushed her hair back a little bit, but I don't think so because Autumn always wears her hair back.
Do you think it doesn't appear until the moment where they get in the fight in the kitchen and she gets the scar? Maybe in Autumn's timeline she doesn't have the scar, so maybe it appears timey-wimey.
And that could be kind of interesting. I like that idea. Like, it's like a I don't know, maybe Back to the Future kind of did that, where like his hand's like going away if a certain timeline is not going to come to fruition. But I don't know if they've given us any of that kind of like different timeline stuff. It seems to be that we're on the same timeline, but maybe that is a clue to that.
I don't know. That's my
Classic.
official response. Royal carries Autumn to the ranch. We get the same
I think this is where we get that
voiceover.
same, the grace speech that he says from the beginning of the episode. And I do like the way they do this, where they kind of start the episode with his prayer, and it kind of has one meaning. And now that he's saying again, after we know what we know, it kind of changes it a little bit and gives you a different connotation for how he's interpreting this grace speech. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. He talks to Cece. He's like, I tried to keep my pain a secret. He's like, now I want to do things different. I don't want Grace. I just want our family back. And Cece's like, nope. I'm going to kick over this dinner table. I'm going to let you know the family's gone. The children are gone. Amy's gone. And Royal's like, well, not really. And then we cut to a crock pot.
This crockpot that was rumbling, like, I think mid-episode. I don't know if this is how crockpot, like my wife made a moment or a comment like, I don't think this is how crockpots work. I don't think they start to like bubble over like that.
I assumed it was from the stampede. I thought the rumbling of the lid was a stampede getting closer.
I don't think the stampede had been there because I think it was well, I don't know. Maybe it was when they were at the rodeo, because there's like one sequence mid-episode where it cuts to the crockpot just shaking, and my assumption was, they left the crockpot, it's going to malfunction, it's going to burn their house down. Why it ends with the crockpot rumbling, the crockpot beeps like it's done, and then the credits roll, and that's the end.
I think
that's where I was like, man, what a rough finish.
Yeah. No, I think what it comes down to is like these shows, they've got to get financing somehow. And like Big Crockpot is going to get their due. And so Big Crockpot was like, listen, you're not going to do a cowboy show without putting our product front and center. And so they went all 8 episodes and like, we're going to end with Big Crockpot. So that's what they did. They just wanted.
And now look at here. We're right here. Right? We're talking about Big Crockpot. And Crockpot, I'm pretty sure, is a brand name. So we should be saying like heating pot.
I hope at this point a commercial cuts in of us talking about how much we love crockpots.
If we were more committed podcasters, we would have done a Budweiser episode or advertisement last episode and a Crockpot episode this one. Are we going to? No, probably not.
We're not.
But just imagine it and laugh. So this brings us to the end. I've got a couple things
Thank
I
God,
read some articles if you want to go through. Just some general questions, which I know your answers, but I could just throw them out there.
Sure.
So I feel like we do at least owe the audience and ourselves. We've gone through the whole show. We've done these multiple hour-long deep dives into it. Before I do that, I want to get your final thoughts on, like, did you enjoy the show enough? Did you enjoy? I mean, I know we always enjoy potting about these kind of things because I always appreciate the conversation, have plenty of laughs. But if this has a season 2, I'm assuming you wouldn't want to pod for it. Would you watch a season 2?
I would watch a season 2, but only because I need TV in the evening to fill the void in my life. I don't know. No, I'd watch a season 2. Here's what I'll say about the show. Like, it's still really well done. Like, everyone that's in it is like a great actor. Like, it was a joy to watch them do it. Like, I don't really feel like there were times where I was like, oh, that was cheesy or dumb, or like the acting was weird, or like the music was like, it stayed on theme. It was a weird Western sci-fi like theme. So like, I'm not upset that I watched it. I'm just
disappointed.
I mean, like, to quote my dad, I'm just disappointed, you know? It's not like, once again, it's not a disappointment in how they did the show. It's a disappointment in the fact that they didn't like tie it up in a bow and give me some of the answers I wanted. It's them holding on. And I don't even know if in this day and age it's like a money grab where they're like, hey, if we could make this into 3 seasons, like, I don't know if they're turn 5 Hobbit movies out of what should have been one. I don't know if they're Peter Jackson, but I liked how it was done. I liked how it was shot. I liked the actors in it. Like, it was still compelling enough that I enjoyed it. I just wanted more from the ending, and I wanted it to be a limited series where there wasn't a season 2, and so they wrapped it all up. And the last thing I'll say, because I know I've been talking a lot, is like, from a story writing perspective, it's easy to like just throw weird stuff into a story. Like, if there's no... if you don't have to pay the bill at the end, like if you don't have to explain it or you don't have to like give a reason for it, like every episode of every show could just be weird. But if you're going to make it weird, like there should be rules, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Because otherwise just throw whatever you want into an episode and then we as an audience just have to like accept it. Does that make sense? Like that's kind of what I feel the show did. The show's like, hey, you guys don't know the rules. We don't know the rules. We're going to do whatever we want and just like watch it. Well, I'm not that type of viewer, so that's
exactly, I mean, yeah, what you're describing is Lost. Like when they first started doing Lost, they had a general idea of where they wanted to start and where they wanted to end, but they got so popular that all they continued to do was just ask questions, and create mystery without solving anything, and none of it made sense in the end. So I think that's kind of what this show's doing. And I didn't read into this. I mean, you talked about like a Juilliard playwright that wrote this. I would hope that if you're adding this much mystery and having this many very specific kind of questions about, I don't know, Amy wearing yellow or excuse me, Autumn wearing yellow later on, and Rebecca's time jump and just all the stuff that's going on, they would have wrote at least the outline for what they want to do with season 2, 3, and 4, or however many this goes. And I'm hoping it's not one of those things where they just threw a bunch of mysteries and say, oh, cool, if people like this and gets picked up, then I'll figure it out and write more. Because then at that point it just becomes kind of like fan fiction type stuff, which is, not good for the long run. Right. So I think like good shows like Stranger Things, those Duffer Brothers that wrote that and directed, like they knew specifically the story they wanted to tell. They didn't know every beat, but they knew what they wanted to get. And I think even Ted Lasso is one where we know that Jason Sudeikis and the other head writers, they had 3 seasons in mind with what kind of story arc they wanted to tell.
Right.
Whether they will go more, who knows, but they know what they want to do in that 3 seasons. And I'm kind of worried that this show is not going to get picked up because it wasn't incredibly well reviewed. I think it was pretty mixed. I can't imagine it's incredibly expensive to produce, and Amazon doesn't, for all the money that they have, they don't produce a whole lot of great content, in my opinion. But I'm hopeful that we get more, because if we don't pot about it, because I think it's an interesting show. It was a long journey to get to where we are. I think we could still watch a season 2, still talk about it, still have fun with the audience. But I'm with you. I don't know if I want to put in all the extra hours to watch each of these episodes multiple times and outline it and chat through it.
I just want answers. That's all I want. Give me answers.
Well, I've got questions.
All right, let's hear your questions.
Okay, so just a couple of things just to kind of wrap up before we jump off that I thought were just kind of either interesting notes or potential questions just to kind of ask. I know you don't have the answers, so I'll just throw them out to the audience and they can ponder them as well. Just some callbacks they had in the very first episode where Amy drew that picture of, heaven when they were at church. If you go back and look at that, and I can't remember if we talked about this specifically, but everybody in that picture, it's the whole family. Rebecca's there, everybody's there, and they're all wearing yellow. And all the people in the background are wearing kind of like blue jumpsuits or something like that. So it's just kind of interesting that the whole idea of future Autumn is, in these yellow jumpsuits in this cult. We don't get any sort of tie-in as to why the yellow is important outside of her earlier saying like it's a powerful color. But I thought that was kind of cool and kind of an interesting little nod from the very first episode in the pilot. One thing with Royal throughout the whole season, he's apparently the only character that we've seen do time jumps that can go both forward and backwards in time, which I think is kind of interesting. And maybe because of this fact, he can potentially like unknowingly like open these voids, like he can control them somehow, because he obviously jumped into the void and jumped forward 82 years. And then when he later gets pushed into the void, he jumps forward 2 and then jumps right back in and then comes back 2. So kind of interesting thing that Royal has some sort of unique relationship with these time elements and minerals that they're working with.
Sure.
Do you think too? We talked about this a little bit, like the idea of is that actually dead Royal that we see in kind of that future timeline or vision that he had, or are there other timelines? I think you kind of theorized about the scar, which I think is kind of interesting. It's something to kind of pull on, but the show doesn't give us enough to really dive too deep down that rabbit hole quite yet.
We know Autumn lives, so there is very much the chance that Autumn will live and Royal will die in the barn with Autumn wearing a yellow jumpsuit. So I think that that timeline can still happen.
Yeah, agreed. Is Royal Kronos? We got the big Kronos like speech in the very opening thing. Like, is Royal like a incarnate of Kronos that's being cast down to Earth and having to live his life as a cursed rancher? Probably not. Just thought it was interesting.
Listen, if the gods want to curse me, please curse me. As someone who owns thousands of acres in Wyoming, I will take that curse and I will run with it. I mean, there's the obvious thing that if you rearrange the letters of Royal and Kronos, I mean, it spells the same thing. Based on how you spell Royal, if you spell it with a K. But I don't know. He doesn't seem like an all-knowing god. If he's a god, he's forgotten a lot of things. And
That's gonna be
I'm just thinking to his prayer where he's yelling at God. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's Kronos. I don't think we're going that supernatural.
Okay. When now that we know Autumn is Amy, Amy is Autumn, it's interesting to go back and think of those times where they met. Because I think at that point, Autumn didn't really know, because we established she didn't know what her first 9 years of her life were. So she didn't know about like her being Amy. So when she runs into Amy, she doesn't know that this is a kid version of her. So she's kind of surprised. And then later on, when she asked Perry for a picture of Rebecca, that's when you can go back and watch that scene. She kind of looks at the picture and kind of gives like a wide-eyed look, like confirming that, okay, this is my mom. I am Amy. I am a good version of it. And I think that is kind of like the catalyst for later events of like, she knows now she's like a time jumper and she's involved in this somehow. And is likely why she kind of jumps off the deep end in episode 7 and 8 and thinks that she's like a, some sort of, Mother Earth goddess or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, I could listen to her speech over and over again as she screams in that Dippy's in that Dippy's bathroom.
Dippy's. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know. As you were talking, part of me was kind of like, I wonder if I started episode 1 and rewatch all of these, whether or not there's a lot of stuff you would catch knowing what you know. But I think we knew that Amy and Autumn were likely the same person, and I don't feel like
we had it in our mind, so we were thinking about it.
I don't know,
but that was about it. The only thing I had was potentially about who was Rebecca hiding from. I was super bummed, like you had mentioned, about not getting more of Rebecca and what's going on with that story, and seemingly they're going to keep it a mystery until they do a season 2. But my assumption is that Rebecca is hiding from Royal, and we would get more of what that relationship is and what came of it and why she disappeared in the first place.
Well, I mean, my only questions, Tom, are the major ones. Will Rhett and Maria get married? That's important to me. And that's really the only question I care about. So I'm going to watch season 2 just to find out whether or not those crazy kids make it.
What about Joy? What about Sheriff Joy, right? Like, she's just seemingly stuck in who knows where.
This show is
that
like,
is such a cool
we're sending you to the
past.
Good luck.
We know she comes back, right? Like, how long does it take her to come back?
Well, now the question is that flash forward from Royal, is that a reliable narrative? Like, are any of the flash forwards a reliable narrative? Are they just one timeline that could possibly happen, or are they timelines that are destined to happen?
I know we probably don't want to continue to theorize because we don't know anything, and this is all just ridiculous.
Because the show doesn't tell us anything, Tom.
If we're to believe that jump forward 2 years, like now going back after watching the whole series and thinking about, okay, there's a countdown timer. We see all these like oil derricks or mining equipment in the background that's taking away all these like time minerals. If the idea is that, time truly is a substance or, something you can physically hold on to, like Autumn had mentioned in one of the previous episodes. Does this R or BY9 company that comes and does all this mining, are they able to control time in some form or fashion? And like you have that countdown timer that's flashing 0 when Royal appears. So like maybe they did some science stuff and figured out when he was going to come back. And like, I don't know. I feel like there's just so much that can be done with the concept of time as a mineral, and you can mine it and you could utilize it. It's a super cool sci-fi concept, but we've just got nothing to go on. And it's not worth probably going down any more void holes to figure it out. I'd rather just go spelunking.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's spelunk. No more void holes. That is a fun idea of like, hey, if you could bottle time and sell it, like what would happen there? This was a good time talking about it. We appreciate those of you that have stuck it out. Apologies that the show wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be, but we don't know when we start a show.
No, and again, if you liked it and you like, if we missed something or there were some cooler elements or something like that, like let us know. We'd appreciate it. Again, you can always reach out to us at teambingepodcast, gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and let us know. Because again, we've got some audience participation throughout and got some theories, which we always appreciate. And I'm sure this is a kind of show that's going to have probably people on a lot of sides of the camp, because some people I do think like that mystery and don't need everything wrapped up in a bow.
Yep, I agree. And as I mentioned last episode, Tom and I are heroes. And if you would like to donate to your heroes, I still haven't gotten the domain yet, but ironically, our donation website is called redcross.org. Go put money through there. And that, I believe, goes directly to our pockets. So please donate at redcross.org. And
please.
So that Tom and I can continue to do this instead of day jobs. We're going to come back with something else eventually, and what that is will depend on the amount of money we receive through our other website, redcross.org.
redcross.org/OnlyFans.
I'm going to type that in and see what happens. Anyways, we appreciate all of you that have joined us, those of you that have written us or made comments. It's always fun to interact with the people that listen to two dumb idiots talk about a show that confused us. But we'll see you next time. I've been Julian.
And I have been Cowboy Yeehaw Tom. See you in the next timeline, everybody.